Captain Jake Miller stood on the bridge of the USS Dakota, watching the stars drift past the main screen. His ship had been exploring the far edges of known space for 3 months now. The mission was simple: find new worlds and see if anyone lived on them. So far, they had found nothing but empty planets and dead rocks floating in space. Jake was a tall man with short brown hair and tired eyes. He had been commanding ships for 15 years, but this was his first time going so far from Earth. His crew was small, but good at their jobs. Dr. Lisa Parker ran the science department. She was smart and always asking questions about everything they found. Tony Garcia handled all the radio signals and messages. He could speak 6 different languages and was learning more every day. "Captain," Tony called from his station, "I'm getting something strange on the long-range sensors." Jake walked over to Tony's workstation. The young man was frowning at his screen, adjusting dials and checking numbers. "What kind of strange?" Jake asked. "It looks like a signal, but it's not like anything we use. The pattern is all wrong for human technology." Tony pressed a few buttons. "Want me to put on the main speakers?" "Do it." The bridge filled with a sound like nothing Jake had ever heard. It was high and musical, but underneath the pretty tones was something that made his stomach feel sick. Fear. Whatever was sending this signal was scared. Dr. Lisa Parker came running onto the bridge. Her red hair was messy, and she had been working in the lab when the signal started. "That's not human," she said right away. "The frequency patterns are too complex. This is alien." Jake felt his heart start beating faster. In all of humanity's travels through space, they had found old ruins and dead cities, but never a living alien race. "Can you understand what they're saying?" Lisa shook her head. "Not yet, but give me time." "Tony, can you clean up the signal?" "I'm trying," Tony said. His fingers moved quickly over his controls. "It's coming from a star system about 3 days away from here. The signal is very weak, like it's traveled a long way." Jake made a decision. "Set course for that system. Best speed possible." "Sir." Lisa looked surprised. "We don't know what we're flying into. This could be dangerous." "Look at the signal patterns," Jake said. "Does that sound like an attack to you? Or does it sound like someone calling for help?" Lisa listened to the alien voices again. Even without understanding the words, the tone was clear. "You're right. They sound desperate." The USS Dakota turned toward the unknown star system and began to move faster than it had ever gone before. In the engine room, machines worked harder to push the ship through space. On the bridge, Lisa and Tony worked together to figure out what the aliens were saying. Hours passed. Lisa barely left her computer, trying to break down the alien language. She found patterns in the sounds and started to make sense of small pieces. Tony worked to make the signal clearer and stronger. "I think I have something," Lisa said after 6 hours of work. Her eyes were red from staring at screens. "They call themselves Zephyrians. That much I'm sure of. And there's a word they keep using that might mean help or save us." "What else?" Jake asked. "There's another word that shows up a lot. It sounds angry and dangerous. I think it might be the name of whoever is attacking them." Lisa played a part of the message. "Korthak. They say it like it tastes bad." Jake nodded. "Keep working on it. I want to know everything we can before we get there." 2 days later, Lisa had figured out much more of the language. She called Jake and Tony to her lab to show them what she had learned. The room was full of computers and screens showing alien writing. "The Zephyrians are in trouble," Lisa said. "Big trouble. From what I can understand, the Korthak are a warrior race that goes from planet to planet, taking everything they want. They've been attacking Zephyrian cities for weeks." "How many Zephyrians are there?" Jake asked. "Millions, maybe billions. Their planet is called Ethros, and it sounds like a beautiful place. They're not fighters, though. They're more like scientists and artists. The Korthak are killing them because they can't fight back." Tony looked sick. "So we're flying toward a war." "Yes," Jake said. "But maybe we can help end it." "Captain," Lisa said quietly, "there's something else. The Zephyrians mention other races in their messages. It sounds like there's a whole group of peaceful species out there. They call it the Galactic Peaceful Coalition. The Korthak have been attacking all of them. Jake felt the weight of what this meant. Humanity was not alone in the universe, but they were flying into a situation where peaceful aliens were being destroyed by violent ones. The USS Dakota was just one small ship against what sounded like a whole empire of warriors. How long until we reached their system? Jake asked. 18 hours, Tony answered. Good. Contact Earth Command right now. Tell them what we found. They need to know about this. As Tony started sending messages back to Earth, Jake looked at the star charts. Somewhere ahead of them was a planet full of aliens asking for help. The USS Dakota was fast, but it was not a warship. It had some weapons, but they were meant for fighting pirates, not an alien army. Still, Jake knew they had to try. The Zephyrians had been sending their distress signal into empty space, hoping someone would hear them. Someone had, and that someone was going to help, even if it seemed impossible. Lisa, Jake said, I want you to send a message back to the Zephyrians. Tell them that humans heard their call for help. Tell them we're coming. Lisa nodded and started working on a reply message. As she translated human words into Zephyrian language, Jake hoped they would arrive in time to do some good. The aliens sounded like good people who didn't deserve what was happening to them. The USS Dakota flew on through space, carrying the hopes of two species toward an uncertain future. The message from the USS Dakota reached Earth Command in the middle of the night. Admiral Kevin Ross was pulled from his sleep by an urgent call from the communications center. He was a big man with gray hair and scars on his hands from his younger days as a ship captain. When he heard what Captain Miller had found, he knew this was the most important moment in human history. Give me General Maria Santos right now, Admiral Ross said to his aide. And wake up the president if you have to. This can't wait. General Santos arrived at Earth Command headquarters 30 minutes later. She was shorter than the Admiral, but moved like a fighter. Her black hair was pulled back tight, and her dark eyes showed she was ready for anything. She had led soldiers in 3 different wars and never lost a battle. Show me what we have, she said, without wasting time on small talk. Admiral Ross played the recordings that Captain Miller had sent back to Earth. The alien voices filled the room, strange and musical but clearly desperate. Dr. Lisa Parker's translation work made the situation clear. The Zephyrians were dying and they needed help fast. How many ships do we have that can reach them in time? General Santos asked. That's the problem, Admiral Ross said. The Dakota is our fastest ship, but it's not built for fighting. If we send our battle fleet, it will take them 5 days to get there. By then, these Zephyrians might all be dead. General Santos studied the star charts on the wall. What do we know about these Korthak? Not much yet. Captain Miller is still gathering information. But from what the Zephyrians are saying, the Korthak are very good at war. They've taken over many other planets. The Admiral's aide came into the room with a coffee pot and some papers. Sir, I've been looking up everything we have on this area of space. There's not much, but we do have some old probe data. Admiral Ross took the papers and read them quickly. This is interesting. According to these reports, that whole region of space has been quiet for years. No ships, no signals, nothing. But now we know why. These peaceful species were there all along. They just don't use the same kind of technology we do. General Santos poured herself coffee and thought about the situation. Admiral, this could be our chance to make friends with alien races, but we need to be smart about it. If we go in with guns blazing, they might think we're just like the Korthak. On the other hand, Admiral Ross said, if we don't go in ready to fight, we might not be able to help them at all. The door opened and President Frank Carter walked in. He was an older man with white hair, but he moved with purpose. Behind him came Dr. Richard Stone, who knew more about alien life than anyone else on Earth. Dr. Stone was thin and tall, with messy brown hair and thick glasses. Gentlemen, General Santos, the president said, I've been briefed on the situation. This is exactly what we've been preparing for, isn't it? Dr. Stone opened his briefcase and pulled out several files. I've been studying the language samples that Dr. Parker sent back. These Zephyrians are remarkable. Their mathematics are more advanced than ours, and their science is based on harmony and balance. They're exactly the kind of species we hope to find. What about this galactic peaceful coalition they mentioned? President Carter asked. That's the really big news, Dr. Stone said. If I'm understanding correctly, there are dozens of intelligent species out there who have been working together for thousands of years. They share knowledge and help each other, but they don't have strong militaries. That's why the Korthak have been able to attack them. Admiral Ross leaned forward. Mr. President, this is our chance to show the galaxy what humans can do, but we need to act fast. President Carter sat down at the big table in the center of the room. What are our options? General Santos spread out several charts. We can send the Dakota by itself and hope Captain Miller can figure out a way to help. We can send our full battle fleet and arrive too late. Or we can send everything we have right now and hope some of our ships get there in time. What's the third option look like? The president asked. Admiral Ross pointed to different parts of the chart. We have 12 heavy cruisers that can make the trip in 4 days, 36 destroyers that can get there in 3.5 days, and we can have Admiral Patricia Hayes take the USS Liberty and arrive in 3 days. The Liberty is our most powerful ship, General Santos added. If anyone can fight these Korthak, it's Admiral Hayes and her crew. Dr. Stone looked worried. We need to be careful about how we approach this. The Zephyrians are peaceful, but they might be scared of us too. Humans come from a dangerous world. Our planet has earthquakes, storms, wild animals, and diseases that would kill most aliens. They might think we're as dangerous as the Korthak. President Carter was quiet for a long moment. Outside the windows, the lights of the city twinkled in the darkness. Somewhere far away, aliens were calling for help, and humanity had to decide what to do. How long do the Zephyrians have? The president finally asked. Admiral Ross checked his notes. Based on their last message, maybe 2 more days before their planet falls completely. The Korthak are destroying their cities one by one. Then we don't have a choice, President Carter said. Send everything. Send Admiral Hayes with the Liberty as fast as possible. Have the cruisers and destroyers follow behind her. And tell Captain Miller that help is coming. General Santos nodded. What are our rules of engagement? How far are we willing to go? The president stood up and walked to the window. The Zephyrians asked for help. We're going to give it to them. If the Korthak want to fight, then we'll fight. But we're not going there to conquer anyone. We're going to protect people who can't protect themselves. Dr. Stone made some notes in his files. I'll prepare first contact protocols for Admiral Hayes. We need to make sure the Zephyrians understand that we're there to help them, not to take over their planet. Good, Admiral Ross said. I'll contact Admiral Hayes right now. The Liberty can be ready to leave in 6 hours. As the meeting broke up, President Carter called Admiral Ross aside. Kevin, this is bigger than just saving one planet. If we do this right, we might be joining something amazing. A whole community of peaceful species working together. And if we do it wrong, Admiral Ross asked, then we might become just another enemy for them to worry about. Admiral Ross saluted. We'll do it right, sir. Captain Miller found them, and we're going to save them. As the Admiral left to prepare the fleet, President Carter looked up at the stars. Humanity was about to meet its neighbors for the first time. He hoped they would all survive the experience. Admiral Patricia Hayes was eating breakfast when the emergency call came through. She was a woman who had spent her whole life in space, starting as a young pilot and working her way up to command the most powerful ship in the human fleet. Her short blonde hair was starting to show gray, and her blue eyes had seen more battles than she cared to remember. Admiral Hayes to the bridge immediately came the voice over the ship's communication system. Priority Alpha message from Earth Command. Patricia dropped her coffee cup and ran to the bridge of the USS Liberty. The ship was massive, bigger than any other vessel humanity had ever built. Its weapons could destroy entire asteroids, and its armor could take hits from the strongest enemy guns. If humanity needed to send a message to the galaxy, the Liberty was that message. On the bridge, her communications officer handed her a data pad with the urgent message from Admiral Ross. As Patricia read about the alien distress signal and the Zephyrians under attack, Her face became serious. "How long to reach this Ethro system?" she asked her navigation officer. 3 days at maximum speed, Admiral. Then we leave in 3 hours. Give me a secure line to Earth Command. Within minutes, Patricia was talking to Admiral Ross, General Santos, and the others. Captain Miller's face appeared on screen from the USS Dakota, which was still racing toward the alien planet. "Captain Miller," Patricia said, "what's the tactical situation?" Jake Miller looked tired but determined. "Admiral, we're still gathering information. Dr. Parker has been monitoring Korthak communications, and what we're learning is not good. They have a large fleet, and they're not just trying to defeat the Zephyrians. They want to destroy them completely." Dr. Richard Stone appeared on another screen from Earth. "Admiral Hayes, I need to brief you on what we know about both species. The Zephyrians are peaceful scientists and artists. They've never fought a war because they've never needed to. Their technology is advanced but focused on exploration and learning, not fighting." "What about the Korthak?" Patricia asked. "They're the opposite," Dr. Stone continued. "Everything we've learned suggests they're a warrior culture. They believe that strong species should rule over weak ones. They've been conquering planets for hundreds of years." General Santos leaned forward. "Admiral, this isn't just about saving one planet. Our intelligence suggests that if the Korthak succeed here, they'll move on to attack other members of this galactic peaceful coalition. We could be looking at the destruction of dozens of peaceful species." Patricia studied the star charts that were being sent to her ship. "How many ships are we talking about?" Captain Miller answered from the Dakota. "We detected at least 40 Korthak vessels in the Ethro system. They range from small fighters to large battleships. Their technology seems focused on breaking through planetary defenses and orbital bombardment." "What about our forces?" Patricia asked Admiral Ross. "You'll have the Liberty as the flagship. 12 heavy cruisers under Captain Susan Bell will follow you. Commander Jim Davis is leading 36 destroyers. Colonel Dan Wright has 3 regiments of Marines ready for ground combat if needed." Patricia did quick calculations in her head. "So we're looking at 48 human ships against 47 Korthak vessels. Those are almost even odds, but we don't know how their technology compares to ours." Dr. Stone cleared his throat. "There's something else you need to know. Admiral, the Korthak come from a world that's much easier to live on than Earth. Lower gravity, stable weather, no dangerous animals. They're physically strong, but they've never had to deal with the kind of challenges that humans face every day." "What do you mean?" Patricia asked. "Earth is what galactic species call a deathworld," Dr. Stone explained. "Our planet is so dangerous that most aliens would die just from breathing our air or drinking our water. The gravity is stronger than most worlds. Our weather is violent, and we have to fight diseases and predators that would terrify other species." General Santos smiled grimly. "What the doctor is saying, Admiral, is that we're tougher than they expect us to be." Captain Miller's voice came through the speakers. "Admiral, there's one more thing. The Zephyrians don't know much about humans yet, but they're willing to trust us because we answered their call for help. However, some of the other coalition species might be afraid of us when they learn where we come from." Patricia nodded. "We'll deal with that later. Right now, our job is to save the Zephyrians and stop the Korthak from destroying any more peaceful worlds." President Carter's face appeared on the main screen. "Admiral Hayes, I want to be very clear about your mission. You're authorized to use whatever force is necessary to protect the Zephyrians. If the Korthak can be convinced to leave peacefully, that's preferred. But if they want to fight, then you have permission to fight back with everything you have." "Understood, Mr. President," Patricia replied. Admiral Ross brought up tactical displays, showing the human fleet's positions. "Admiral Hayes, your ships are the fastest we have. You'll arrive first and will need to assess the situation. The cruisers and destroyers will arrive 6 to 12 hours after you do. That means I'll be facing the entire Korthak fleet with just the Liberty for several hours," Patricia said. "Can you handle that?" General Santos asked. Patricia looked at her bridge crew. These were men and women who had trained their whole lives for moments like this. They came from a world that tried to kill them every day, and they had learned to fight back. The Korthak might be surprised by what they were about to face. General, the Korthak have been fighting peaceful species who don't know how to fight back. They've never faced anyone from a death world before. I think we can give them a few surprises. Captain Miller spoke up from the Dakota. Admiral, I've been thinking about tactics. The Korthak seem to use straightforward attack patterns. They overwhelm their enemies with superior numbers and firepower, but they might not be ready for more creative approaches. What do you suggest, Captain? Hit and run attacks. Use our speed and maneuverability. Make them chase us while the Zephyrians evacuate their people to safer areas. When our reinforcements arrive, we can switch to a full assault. Patricia liked the idea. That could work. The Liberty is fast for a big ship, and our weapons have longer range than most vessels. Dr. Stone added one final piece of information. Admiral, the Zephyrians have offered to share their mathematical and scientific knowledge with us if we can save their planet. Their discoveries could advance human technology by hundreds of years. All the more reason to succeed, Patricia said. Gentlemen, ladies, we're about to make first contact with an alien species while fighting a war against another alien species. This is what we've been training for our entire careers. President Carter nodded solemnly. Good luck, Admiral. The hopes of two species are going with you. As the communication ended, Patricia turned to her crew. All hands, prepare for immediate departure. We have aliens to save and enemies to fight. Let's show the galaxy what humans can do. The USS Liberty began to move, followed by the fastest ships in the human fleet. Behind them, Earth watched and waited, hoping their representatives would be victorious in humanity's first interstellar war. The Luna shipyards had never seen so much activity. Ships that were scheduled for maintenance were pulled from their repair bays and sent out with minimal fixes. Crews that had been on leave were called back to duty. The entire human space fleet was mobilizing for war, and everyone knew this was the most important mission they had ever undertaken. Chief Engineer Sam Rodriguez wiped sweat from his forehead as he watched the final preparations on the USS Liberty. He was a big man with thick arms and hands that were always dirty from working on engines. He had been building and fixing ships for 20 years, but he had never worked this fast before. Admiral Hayes, he called over the communication system, the Liberty is ready to go. All weapon systems are online. Engines are running at full power, and we have enough supplies for 6 months. On the bridge, Admiral Hayes nodded to her crew. Around them, the other ships of the fleet were taking their positions. The heavy cruisers looked like smaller versions of the Liberty, their gray hulls covered with weapon ports and sensor arrays. The destroyers were sleek and fast, built for quick strikes and rapid movement. Admiral, called Commander Amy Foster from the fighter bay. All pilots are ready. We have 60 fighters loaded and another 60 in reserve. The pilots are eager to see what alien ships look like. Amy was one of the best pilots in the human fleet. She was small and quick, with short red hair and green eyes that missed nothing. She had been flying since she was 18 and had never lost a fight. Colonel Dan Wright's voice came through from Marine decks. Admiral, 3,000 Marines are ready for deployment. We got assault pods, heavy weapons, and enough firepower to take on anything the Korthak can throw at us. Dan was a career soldier who had fought pirates and rebels across human space. He was tall and strong, with scars on his face from battles he preferred not to talk about. His Marines trusted him completely because he had never asked them to do anything he wouldn't do himself. Thank you, Colonel, Admiral Hayes replied. I hope we won't need ground troops, but it's good to know you're ready. Dr. Lisa Parker's voice came through from the USS Dakota, which was already near the Ethro system. Admiral, I've been monitoring Korthak communications. They know we're coming. What are they saying? Admiral Hayes asked. They're confused, Dr. Parker replied. They keep referring to Earth as a Class 12 death world, and they can't believe that any intelligent life could survive there. They think we must be some kind of mistake. On the bridge of the Liberty, the crew looked at each other with grim smiles. Being from a death world was something humans took pride in. Earth had tried to kill them with storms, earthquakes, diseases, and dangerous animals for thousands of years. They had survived and become stronger. What else are the Korthak saying? Admiral Hayes asked. Captain Miller's voice joined the conversation from the Dakota. They're asking their own command for instructions. It seems like they've never fought anyone from a death world before. Their leaders are telling them to destroy us quickly before we can cause trouble. Too late for that. Admiral Hayes said with a slight smile, "Mr. Rodriguez, are all ships ready for hyperspace jump?" The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Ethro system like thunder breaking the silence. 48 ships appeared in flashes of white light, their weapons already charged and their crews ready for battle. Admiral Hayes stood on the bridge of the Liberty and looked at the tactical display that showed her what they were facing. "My God," whispered her tactical officer. "Look at that planet." Ethros hung in space like a wounded jewel. From orbit, they could see the beautiful blue and green world that the Zephyrians called home, but they could also see the fires burning in their cities and the dark smoke rising from destroyed areas. Korthak ships move around the planet like vultures, dropping bombs and landing troops. Status report. Admiral Hayes ordered. 47 Korthak vessels detected. Her tactical officer replied. Range from small fighters to heavy battleships. They have orbital bombardment platforms targeting population centers. Estimate 20,000 Zephyrian civilians killed in the past 6 hours. Admiral Hayes felt anger rise in her chest. The Korthak weren't just conquering the planet. They were trying to wipe out everyone who lived there. "Admiral," called the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from Captain Miller on the Dakota." "Put him through." Captain Miller's tired face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, Dr. Lisa Parker was working frantically at her station. "Admiral, we've been monitoring the situation for the past day. The Korthak are systematically destroying Zephyrian cities. They're not trying to capture territory. They want to kill everyone." "What about Zephyrian resistance?" Admiral Hayes asked. Dr. Parker looked up from her work. "Admiral, the Zephyrians have never fought a war. They don't have military ships or weapons. Their technology is all focused on science and exploration. They're completely defenseless. Are there any survivors?" "Yes," Captain Miller replied. "The Zephyrians have underground shelters in hidden cities, but the Korthak are finding them one by one. We estimate they have maybe 18 hours before the planet falls completely." Admiral Hayes studied the tactical display. The Korthak fleet was spread out around the planet, with their largest ships bombarding the surface, while smaller vessels hunted for hidden Zephyrian settlements. "Admiral," called her communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. It's in Zephyrian language." "Dr. Parker, can you translate?" "Yes, Admiral. They're saying, 'Thank the stars, the humans have come. We are High Scholar Velterra of the Zephyrian Council. We greet our brave allies from the distant world. They want to know how they can help us.'" Admiral Hayes smiled grimly. Even facing extinction, the Zephyrians were offering to help their rescuers. "Tell them to gather their people in the deepest, safest places they have. We're about to start a war." "Admiral," her tactical officer said urgently, "the Korthak fleet is moving. They're forming up to attack us." On the display, the enemy ships were leaving their bombardment positions and grouping together. The largest Korthak vessel, bigger than anything in the human fleet, was moving to the front of their formation. "We're receiving a transmission from the Korthak flagship," the communications officer reported. "Let's hear what they have to say." The bridge filled with a harsh, angry voice. The alien words were translated by the ship's computer into flat, emotionless English. "I am War Chief Grextar of the Korthak Empire. You have made a grave mistake. Humans! This world belongs to the Korthak now. Its people will serve us or die. You will leave immediately or share their fate." Admiral Hayes looked at her crew. Every face showed the same determination she felt. "Open a channel." "Channel open, Admiral." "This is Admiral Patricia Hayes of the Human Defense Fleet. The Zephyrians are peaceful people who have done nothing to deserve this attack. You will withdraw from this system immediately and never return. This is your only warning." The Korthak response was quick and angry. "You dare threaten the Korthak Empire? Your soft world has made you weak. We have conquered 47 worlds. Your ships will burn like all the others who stood against us. Admiral Hayes nodded to her tactical officer. Battle stations. All ships, prepare for combat. Throughout the human fleet, alarm bells rang and red lights flashed. Gunners took their positions at weapon controls. Engineers made final checks on shields and engines. Fighter pilots climbed into their ships and prepared for launch. Admiral called Captain Miller from the Dakota, "I'm detecting movement from the Zephyrian underground cities. They're trying to evacuate civilians to deeper shelters." "Good. How many Zephyrians are we trying to save?" Dr. Parker answered from her station. Based on their transmissions, approximately 8 million Zephyrians are still alive on the planet. Most of their major cities have been destroyed, but the survivors are hiding in underground complexes that were built for scientific research. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "the Korthak flagship is moving into attack position. They're bringing their heaviest weapons to bear on us." Admiral Hayes looked at the tactical display. The Korthak ship was massive, easily twice the size of the Liberty. Its hull was covered with weapon ports and armor plating. It looked like it had been built for one purpose: destroying enemies. But Admiral Hayes knew something that War Chief Grextar didn't know. The Liberty and her sister ships had been built by humans from a deathworld. Every system, every weapon, every piece of armor had been designed by people who lived on a planet that tried to kill them every day. Human engineering was based on the simple idea that everything could go wrong, and usually did. "All ships, form up on the Liberty," Admiral Hayes ordered. "We're going to show these Korthak what happens when you attack peaceful people in front of humans." "Admiral," her communications officer said, "we're receiving another transmission from the Zephyrians. High Scholar Velterra wants to speak with you directly." "Put her through." The main screen showed a creature unlike anything the humans had ever seen. The Zephyrian looked like a cross between a bird and a person, with beautiful feathers that shimmered in the light and large, intelligent eyes. When she spoke, her voice was musical and sad. "Admiral Hayes," Velterra said in careful English, "we have studied your species since you arrived. You come from a world that is more dangerous than we can imagine, yet you traveled across the stars to help people you have never met. Why?" Admiral Hayes looked at the beautiful alien face on her screen and thought about her answer. "Because that's what good people do. They help others when they can." Velterra's eyes widened. "Your species is remarkable. We will remember this kindness for 1,000 generations, whether we survive this day or not." "You're going to survive," Admiral Hayes said firmly. "I promise you that." "Admiral," her tactical officer called urgently, "the Korthak are opening fire." Space around Ethros exploded into violence as the Korthak fleet opened fire. Bright beams of energy lanced through the darkness, followed by missiles that trailed fire behind them. The War Chief Grextar had decided to show the humans what happened to those who defied the Korthak Empire. Evasive maneuvers. Admiral Hayes shouted as the first enemy shots reached the Liberty. The massive ship twisted and turned with surprising grace. Its hull glowing as energy shields deflected the worst of the attack. "Return fire. All batteries. Target the Korthak flagship." The Liberty's main guns erupted in brilliant flashes of light. Human plasma cannons sent bolts of pure energy racing toward the enemy ship, while kinetic weapons fired metal slugs at incredible speed. The shots struck the Korthak vessel's shields and armor, causing explosions that lit up the darkness. Throughout the human fleet, ships began to fight in ways the Korthak had never seen before. Instead of forming rigid battle lines like previous enemies, the human vessels move in complex patterns, supporting each other while avoiding enemy fire. Captain Susan Bell commanded the heavy cruiser USS Phoenix, leading a group of 12 ships in a wide flanking maneuver. She was a veteran of numerous space battles, with short gray hair and steady hands that never shook under pressure. "Phoenix to all heavy cruisers," she said calmly as enemy fire exploded around her ship. "Follow my lead. We're going to hit their left flank, while they're focused on the Liberty." The 12 cruisers moved together like a pack of wolves, their combined firepower concentrated on a group of Korthak destroyers. The alien ships, built for bombarding defenseless planets, found themselves under attack from multiple directions at once. Meanwhile, Commander Jim Davis led the destroyer squadron in a series of hit-and-run attacks. His ship, the USS Falcon, was small and fast, designed for quick strikes against larger enemies. All destroyers, follow attack pattern Delta. Jim commanded as his ship darted between the larger vessels. Hit them fast and get out before they can respond. The human destroyers moved like angry hornets, striking at the Korthak ships and then disappearing into the debris field around Ethros. Their weapons were smaller than the cruisers, but they were accurate and deadly. On the Korthak flagship, War Chief Grextar watched the battle with growing confusion. His species had conquered dozens of worlds, but they had always fought enemies who used simple, straightforward tactics. The humans were doing something completely different. "Why don't they fight properly?" he growled to his tactical officer. "They should form a battle line and engage us directly." "War Chief," his officer replied nervously, "their ships are faster and more maneuverable than ours. They're using hit-and-run tactics to avoid our heaviest weapons. Then we'll destroy them one by one." Grextar snarled, "Order all ships to focus fire on the human flagship." The Korthak fleet began to concentrate their attack on the Liberty, sending wave after wave of energy beams and missiles toward Admiral Hayes' ship. But the Liberty's shields held, and her return fire was devastating. "Admiral," called the tactical officer, "our shields are down to 60%. The Korthak are hitting us with everything they have." "Good." Admiral Hayes replied with a fierce smile. "That means they're not bombing the planet. How are our attack squadrons doing?" Captain Bell's cruisers have destroyed 6 Korthak destroyers. Commander Davis's squadron has damaged 12 more enemy ships. But we're still outnumbered. On the planet's surface, High Scholar Velterra watched the battle through her people's sensors. The Zephyrians had never seen space combat before, and the violence was both terrifying and amazing. But what impressed her most was how the humans fought. "They're not just trying to win," she said to her advisors. "They're trying to protect us. Look how they position themselves between our world and the Korthak guns." It was true. Every human ship was fighting in a way that kept the enemy focused on them instead of the planet. Even when it would have been tactically smarter to retreat, the humans stayed between the Korthak and the Zephyrian cities. Back in space, the battle was reaching a critical point. The Liberty had taken heavy damage, but she was still fighting. Her main guns fired continuously, each shot powerful enough to cripple a smaller ship. "Admiral," called the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from Colonel Wright. He's requesting permission to launch Marine assault pods." Admiral Hayes looked at the tactical display. The Korthak had several large ships that were still bombarding the planet whenever they got a chance. If Marines could capture or destroy those ships, it would save thousands of Zephyrian lives. "Permission granted, Colonel." "Give them hell." Deep in the Liberty's launch bays, Colonel Dan Wright and his Marines were already suited up and ready for action. The assault pods were small, armored vehicles designed to carry soldiers from ship to ship during space battles. "Listen up, Marines." Colonel Wright shouted over the noise of the battle. "We're going to board 3 Korthak bombardment ships and shut them down permanently. These aliens think they can murder innocent civilians while we watch. Let's show them what human Marines can do." The Marines cheered and climbed into their pods. These were men and women who had volunteered to be shot through space in tiny metal cans, hoping to reach enemy ships alive. It was dangerous work, but someone had to do it. "Launch assault pods." Colonel Wright ordered. 24 pods shot out of Liberty like bullets, racing toward the Korthak ships. Enemy guns tried to shoot them down, but the pods were small and fast, and most of them made it through. War Chief Grextar watched the assault pods approaching his bombardment ships and felt something he hadn't experienced in years: fear. No enemy had ever tried to board Korthak vessels during a battle. It was considered impossible. "What are they doing?" he demanded. "War Chief," his tactical officer reported, "the humans are attempting to board our ships. This is unprecedented." "Stop them." But it was too late. The first assault pods crashed into the hulls of the Korthak ships and began cutting their way inside. Within minutes, the sounds of fighting could be heard through the communication channels as human Marines battled Korthak soldiers in the corridors of alien ships. Commander Amy Foster watched the Marine assault from her fighter cockpit as she led her squadron in attacks on Korthak fighters. The small alien ships were fast, but they weren't prepared for human tactics. Red Squadron, form up on me, Amy commanded as she rolled her fighter through a complex maneuver. We're going to clear a path for the Marines. Her 60 fighters moved together like a flock of deadly birds, their weapons tearing to the Korthak fighter screen. Amy had been flying since she was a teenager, and she had never met an enemy pilot who could match her skill. The battle raged on, with explosions lighting up the space around Ethros. But slowly, the humans were gaining the upper hand. Their superior tactics and determination were overcoming the Korthak advantage in numbers. On the planet, Velterra sent a message to Admiral Hayes. Admiral, our sensors show that Korthak ground forces are retreating to their landing ships. Your attack is working. Admiral Hayes smiled as she watched another Korthak ship explode under the combined fire of her fleet. We're just getting started. High Scholar. By the time we're done, the Korthak will never threaten your people again. He battled for Ethros reached its turning point when Major Kate Adams led her Marine squad to the corridors of a Korthak bombardment ship. The aliens inside were bigger and stronger than humans, but they had never fought anyone who came from a deathworld. Contact front, shouted Sergeant Mike Chin as Korthak soldiers appeared around the corner. The aliens were tall and covered in thick, armored skin. Their weapons fired energy bolts that could melt steel. But the human Marines had trained for this. They moved as a team, using cover and supporting each other with precise fire. Their weapons were designed to work in any environment, against any enemy. Grenades out! Major Adams called. The small explosives bounced around the corner and detonated, filling the corridor with smoke and debris. When it cleared, the Korthak soldiers were down. Keep moving, Adams ordered. We need to reach the bombardment control room before they can target the planet again. Similar fights were happening on 2 other Korthak ships as human Marines fought their way through alien corridors. The Korthak had never faced borders before, and their ship designs weren't built to stop determined soldiers who were used to fighting for their lives. In space, the main battle was also turning in humanity's favor. Lieutenant Commander Paul Bennett led his torpedo bombers in a daring attack on the Korthak orbital platforms. These massive weapons were designed to destroy cities from space, but they had weak spots that human engineers had identified. Phoenix Squadron, follow me in, Paul commanded as his bomber dug toward the nearest platform. Target the reactor housings. If we can overload their power systems, the whole thing will blow. The bombers flew through intense defensive fire, their pilots using every trick they had learned in training. Paul's ship shook as enemy shots passed close by, but he kept his torpedo locked on target. Torpedo away, he called, and the powerful weapon streaked toward the platform. It struck the reactor housing and disappeared inside before exploding. The entire platform shuddered and began to break apart. Direct hit, called one of his pilots. That's one platform down. But the real change in the battle came when War Chief Grextar realized that his forces were losing. The Korthak Empire had conquered 47 worlds, but they had never faced an enemy like humanity. These aliens in the Deathworld fought with a combination of technology, tactics, and pure determination that the Korthak couldn't match. War Chief, his tactical officer reported, we've lost 12 ships and 3 of our bombardment platforms have been destroyed. The humans are boarding our vessels and fighting our soldiers hand to hand. Grextar looked at the tactical display and saw his fleet being picked apart by the smaller human force. How is this possible? We outnumber them. Sir, their ships are more advanced than we expected. And their tactics, they fight like they're not afraid to die. That was exactly right. Humans had evolved on a world where death could come from anywhere at any time. They had learned to face danger without backing down, because running away usually meant dying anyway. On the Liberty's bridge, Admiral Hayes watched as her fleet continued to dismantle the Korthak forces. Status report, she called. 18 Korthak ships destroyed or disabled. Her tactical officer replied, our Marines have captured 2 bombardment ships and are fighting for control of a third. Commander Foster's fighters have cleared most of the enemy fighter screen. Excellent. Signal Captain Bell to begin the final assault on the Korthak flagship. Captain Susan Bell received the order and smiled grimly. Her heavy cruisers had been waiting for this moment. All cruisers, form attack formation Alpha. We're going to take down that flagship. The 12 heavy cruisers moved together toward the massive Korthak vessel. Their combined firepower was enough to destroy any ship ever built, and they focused it all on War Chief Grextar's flagship. But the humans weren't the only ones who could learn from battle. On the planet's surface, High Scholar Velterra had been watching the fight and studying human tactics. The Zephyrians might be peaceful, but they were also brilliant scientists. Admiral Hayes, Velterra's voice came through the communication system. We have been analyzing the Korthak ship movements. We believe we can help. How? Admiral Hayes asked. Our mathematical models show weak points in their formation. If you attack these specific coordinates, you can cause a chain reaction that will disable multiple ships at once. Admiral Hayes looked at the data the Zephyrians were sending. Even while hiding from an invasion, they had been using their advanced science to help their human allies. Outstanding work, High Scholar. All ships knew target coordinates coming through. The human fleet adjusted their attack based on Zephyrian calculations. The results were immediate and devastating. When they hit the specific points Velterra had identified, explosions cascaded to the Korthak formation, disabling ships and disrupting their coordination. War Chief Grextar watched his fleet falling apart and felt something he had never experienced before. The fear of defeat. Signal all ships, he ordered. Full retreat to hyperspace. But Admiral Hayes wasn't going to let the Korthak escape to attack other peaceful worlds. All ships, pursue and destroy. Don't let any of them get away. The human fleet chased the fleeing Korthak vessels, their weapons firing continuously. Ship after ship was destroyed as they tried to reach the edge of the system where they could jump to hyperspace. Commander Jim Davis's destroyers were perfect for this kind of pursuit. Falcon all destroyers, he called. Don't let them regroup. Hit them while they're running. The fast human ships darted through the retreating Korthak fleet like sharks among fish. Their weapons were smaller than the cruisers, but they were deadly accurate. Major Adams and her Marines had finally reached the bombardment control room on their target ship. The Korthak inside surrendered when they saw human soldiers who looked like they could fight all day without getting tired. Control room secured, Adams reported. We've shut down all bombardment systems on this ship. Similar reports came in from the other Marine teams. In less than 2 hours, human soldiers had captured 3 major Korthak vessels and stopped their attacks on the planet. War Chief Grextar found himself alone on his flagship as the rest of his fleet was destroyed around him. His ship was damaged and surrounded by human vessels. For the first time in his military career, he was facing certain defeat. War Chief, his communications officer said quietly, the humans are demanding our surrender. Grextar looked at the tactical display. Of his original 47 ships, only 5 were still functional, and they were all damaged. The humans had lost only 3 vessels, and their remaining ships showed no signs of retreating. Open a channel, he said finally. Admiral Hayes' face appeared on the screen. The human looked tired but determined. War Chief Grextar, you have 2 choices. Surrender now or be destroyed. Make your decision quickly. Grextar had spent his entire life conquering weaker species. Now he faced aliens who were stronger, smarter, and more determined than any enemy he had ever fought. The humans had come from across the galaxy to protect people they had never met, and they had won. He began, then stopped. In his language, there were no words for surrender. The Korthak had never needed them. I yield, he said finally, using the human word. Admiral Hayes nodded. All Korthak vessels will power down their weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any ship that tries to escape will be destroyed. The battle for Ethros was over. Humanity had won its first interstellar war. The silence that followed the battle was strange and peaceful. Where moments before the space around Ethros had been filled with explosions and weapons fire, now there was only the quiet hum of human ships securing their victory. War Chief Grextar's flagship drifted powerless, surrounded by the vessels of Admiral Hayes' fleet. All Korthak vessels secured. reported Colonel Wright from his Marine command ship. Prisoners are being processed, and wounded are receiving medical care. The surviving Korthak seem confused Admiral. Admiral Hayes understood why. The Korthak Empire had built its power on the simple idea that the strong ruled the weak. They had never encountered a species that was both stronger than them and unwilling to use that strength for conquest. Admiral, called the communications officer, High Scholar Velterra is requesting permission to come aboard the Liberty. Granted. Have Dr. Stone meet her in the main conference room. Dr. Richard Stone had arrived with the fleet's support ships and was eager to begin formal first contact procedures. This was the moment he had dreamed of his entire career. Meeting an intelligent alien species as a friend rather than an enemy. An hour later, Admiral Hayes entered the conference room to find Dr. Stone deep in conversation with the most beautiful creature she had ever seen. High Scholar Velterra was tall and graceful, with shimmering feathers that changed color in the light. Her large eyes held intelligence and wisdom that seemed ancient. Admiral Hayes, Velterra said, rising from her chair, I cannot find words in any language to express our gratitude. You traveled across the stars to save people you had never met. This kindness will be remembered by every Zephyrian for all time. High Scholar, Admiral Hayes replied, it was an honor to help. Your people deserve to live in peace. Your species is remarkable, Velterra continued. We have studied your ships and your tactics. You come from a world so dangerous that it would kill most galactic species in minutes. Yet instead of becoming destroyers like the Korthak, you became protectors. How is this possible? Dr. Stone leaned forward with interest. This was exactly the kind of question he hoped to explore. High Scholar, humans learned long ago that survival depends on cooperation. Our world tried to kill us with storms, earthquakes, diseases, and predators. We survived by helping each other. Fascinating, Velterra said. Most species that evolve on dangerous worlds become aggressive and territorial. Your people became something unique, cooperative warriors. Admiral Hayes' communication device chimed with an incoming message. Admiral, came the voice of her tactical officer. We're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. Word of our victory is spreading fast. Put on the main screen, Admiral Hayes ordered. The conference room's display lit up with star charts showing transmission sources from dozens of different locations. Dr. Stone's eyes widened as he realized what they were seeing. These are all members of the Galactic Peaceful Coalition, he said in amazement. They're all trying to contact us. Velterra smiled, expression that was both alien and completely understandable. Admiral, your victory here has done more than save Ethros. You have given hope to every peaceful species in the galaxy. For the first time, we have allies who can match the strength of our enemies. Over the next several hours, representatives from dozens of different species made contact with the human fleet. There are the aquatic delphinians, whose blue skin and gentle voices reminded everyone of Earth's dolphins. The crystalline quartzites communicated through musical tones that sounded like wind chimes. The plant-like Verdians grew their ships rather than building them. Each species had the same message. They wanted to establish relations with humanity. They had heard the stories of the Deathworld warriors who crossed the galaxy to protect strangers, and they wanted these remarkable beings as allies. Captain Miller, still aboard the USS Dakota, coordinated the flood of communications. Admiral, I'm getting requests for everything from trade agreements to military alliances. It seems like every peaceful species in this part of the galaxy wants to be our friend. Any word from Earth? Admiral Hayes asked. President Carter sends his congratulations. He's authorizing you to begin preliminary negotiations with any species that wants to talk. Dr. Stone has full diplomatic authority. Dr. Stone was practically glowing with excitement. Admiral, this is unprecedented. We're looking at the possibility of joining a galactic community of peaceful species. The scientific knowledge they could share with us. What about the Korthak? Admiral Hayes asked Velterra. Will there be others like them? The Zephyrian's expression became serious. Unfortunately, yes, the Korthak Empire extends across many star systems. They have enslaved 12 other species and stripped their worlds of resources. What you face here was only a small part of their military. But now they know about humans, Admiral Hayes pointed out. They know we exist, and they know we can beat them. Yes, Velterra agreed. And that changes everything. For the first time, the aggressive species of the galaxy will have to consider that their actions might have consequences. A new voice joined the conversation as War Chief Grextar was brought into the conference room under Marine Guard. The Korthak leader was smaller than Admiral Hayes had expected, but his presence filled the room with contained violence. "I wish to speak," Grextar said in heavily accented English. "Go ahead," Admiral Hayes replied. "I have ruled 47 worlds. I have commanded fleets that could destroy entire systems. But I have never faced an enemy like your species." Grextar looked directly at Admiral Hayes. "You fight like devils, but you show mercy like saints. I do not understand you." "What's understand?" Admiral Hayes asked. "We protect those who can't protect themselves. It's not complicated. For the Korthak, it is impossible," Grextar replied. "We believe that the strong should rule and the weak should serve. But you are strong and you serve others. This breaks everything we thought we knew about the universe." Dr. Stone made notes furiously as he listened to this exchange. "War Chief, what will your empire do when they learn about this defeat?" "They will send more ships," Grextar said simply. "Larger fleets. More powerful weapons. They will not allow this defeat to stand." "Then they'll face the same fate as your fleet," Admiral Hayes said calmly. Grextar studied the human admiral for a long moment. Perhaps they will learn what I have learned today, that there are some things more powerful than weapons and ships." "What's that?" Admiral Hayes asked. "The willingness to fight for others rather than yourself." 3 days later, the human fleet prepared to return to Earth. The USS Dakota would remain at Ethros as humanity's first embassy to an alien species. Captain Miller had volunteered to stay and help the Zephyrians rebuild their damaged cities. High Scholar Velterra stood on the Liberty's observation deck with Admiral Hayes, watching the beautiful planet turn slowly below them. "Your Dr. Stone tells me that humans have a saying, 'No good deed goes unpunished.' I hope this is not true." Admiral Hayes smiled. "Maybe not, but even if it is, we'll keep doing good deeds anyway. That's just who we are." "Then the galaxy is fortunate to have found you," Velterra said. "The Galactic Peaceful Coalition formally invites humanity to join us as a full member. Your representatives will be welcome at our council chambers, and your knowledge will be shared with all our peoples. And in return, we offer you the accumulated wisdom of 43 different species. Our mathematics, our science, our art, our philosophy. Everything we have learned in 10,000 years of peaceful cooperation." Admiral Hayes thought about what this meant. Humanity would no longer be alone in the universe. They would be part of something larger, something better. And in exchange, they would do what humans had always done best: protect those who needed protection. "We accept," Admiral Hayes said. As the Liberty prepared to jump to hyperspace, Captain Miller sent one final message to Admiral Hayes. "Admiral, the Zephyrians have a gift for you. They've calculated the locations of 12 other systems where the Korthak are attacking peaceful species. They want to know if you're interested in paying them a visit." Admiral Hayes looked at the star charts showing the locations of 12 more battles between good and evil. 12 more chances for humanity to prove that strength and kindness could exist in the same species. "Set a course to the nearest system," she ordered. "We have work to do." The human fleet disappeared into hyperspace, carrying with them the hopes of peaceful species across the galaxy. Behind them, Ethros began to heal under protection of human friendship, and ahead of them waited more battles, more chances to prove that sometimes the universe sends exactly the right help at exactly the right time. In the vastness of space, the message spread from world to world. The humans had come, and they were everything the galaxy had hoped for